Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Welcome to be my guest. This is Jan Lewis. Today we have Dr. Romas Buivydas. I said it right.
Yes, you did.
PhD, LMHC, licensed mental health counselor. Mm-hmm. He is the Vice President of Clinical Development for Spectrum Health Systems. And we're going to, with this huge addiction program, especially with the opioids out there now, you have three clinics now? How many of them?
Oh, throughout Massachusetts?
Yeah. This general area. 2 in Worcester, right?
Well, 2 in Worcester, and we have an inpatient campus right here in close by Westboro as well.
It's a beautiful campus, by the way.
Thank you. No, it is. We take pride in it. We take pride in where folks get treated. How's that?
Yeah.
There are a lot of other places out there that don't look so nice,
no.
And it doesn't provide dignity for recovery.
Yes.
And that's a key element for anybody's recovery, is that you're treated with dignity.
And something upbeat and pleasant.
Yes, absolutely.
Not just clinical.
No. There's multiple activities to engage folks. There's engagement of family, which is critical in recovery from addiction and actually even from mental health.
And steering towards the support groups,
Absolutely.
AA, NA, and all that stuff.
And all the other types that are out there. And again, one size does not fit all.
No.
So if somebody does need support, it may be AA, it could be NA, it could be all recovery, it could be smart recovery. There's multiple places, as long as you get that support.
Whatever works, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever works. Now, how long have you been the VP over there and there?
I've been now close to 12 years.
You like it.
I guess I do. I do. There's a reason everyone says you go into your field.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was to help folks out.
Are you based in Westboro?
I'm based in Worcester. That's where our home office is. Mm-hmm. But I travel to all our different sites from time to time. Yeah. And my primary job is basically to make sure clinically we're developing in the right way what's called best practices. Mm-hmm. So we're on the cutting edge of treatment for addictions, for behavioral health care. And I also train and teach both our own folks and the outside world as well. So I provide consultation to other organizations, other clinics, and in fact, even other towns.
Yeah. Do you give speed presentations to maybe if the library requested you to come?
I have done that. I've gone to schools, to colleges, you name it. It's basically getting the word out as well.
We were talking about, a lot of us, our kids, their generation, the millennials, were tons of them. It seemed to be the soup du jour, ADHD. And
then you add bipolar, you add other things.
Yeah.
and many times, again, we had a brief conversation earlier, many times a lot of folks, a lot of kids are misdiagnosed.
And they're self-medicating with the pot and booze.
Exactly, to calm themselves down, to be able to interact appropriately. They're doing whatever they can.
Yeah.
And then if pot or alcohol doesn't work, they may unfortunately then step it up to the harder kind of drugs, let's say opioids in this case.
And then you've got the benzos.
And the benzos as well, the benzodiazepines. For those of you who don't know what that is, those are, technical term is anxiolytics. They help your anxiety out.
Valium,
Ativan, Xanax, all of them come to mind. Problem is they're all addicting. And the other problem is if you stop them cold turkey,
you're in deep trouble.
You can have a seizure, just like coming off a long, many-year overuse of alcohol.
Yeah. Now, I know that a lot of the parents, their kids started off with the ADHD, and then it morphed into, it's now bipolar, and now it's a conduct disorder, now it's schizoaffective. What?
Yeah, things don't morph like that.
Yeah.
And the issue is, and a lot of folks don't know that, you can be diagnosed by any physician who has a license to practice medicine. However, are they a practicing psychiatrist?
Yeah.
That's the issue. Would you go to have your heart diagnosed with some kind of heart malady by a pediatrician? You probably wouldn't. You'd go to a cardiologist.
Yeah.
Problem is, a lot of folks themselves, or as they were kids, or their own kids now, are quickly diagnosed, sometimes correctly, sometimes, unfortunately, badly.
Yeah.
And that stigma then sticks and follows them through life.
And there come all the medicines, Ritalin, Adderall, Seroquel.
And all of those medicines, the Ritalins of the world, those are amphetamines, believe it or not. They're stimulants.
Yeah.
Are they abused? Are they sold in the streets? They sure are.
Yeah.
Seroquel, I've seen it so many times, much too many times. It's an antipsychotic medication.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
It's very strong.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes, and it does have off-label uses, sometimes for folks who have problems sleeping. The issue is that with folks who are trying to recover, an early recovery from addiction from drugs, their sleep cycles are off anyways.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they get prescribed Seroquel, but then they're groggy trying to go to work, to school, or go into groups or something like that. It's a lot of chemistry, sometimes very bad.
Romas, how do people, let's say, well, my son is older now, it's not him, let's say somebody in his age group, still below 18, so the parents have some control over what's happening.
Right.
You must get a lot of calls over there, Spectrum, from parents who say, help, I don't know what to do. The kid won't go, the kid's running away, they're obviously they're selling it, they're using it, sneaking in the windows.
Right.
What happens from there?
A lot of parents call for help.
Yeah.
And at least under the age of 18, you do have some semblance of control over your child.
Yeah.
Once they pass that 18-year mark, however, things change, laws change, and how you deal with someone who's still basically an adolescent, but now cannot be fully controlled, you don't want to lose them to an addiction. And so the unfortunate parts are that many times some parents will have to go to courts and ask what's known as a Section 35 to be committed to a drug treatment facility.
Is that a Baker's Act?
In Florida, it's called the Baker's Act.
Okay, all right.
So every state calls it something different.
Yeah.
We call it Section 35. If a child is out of control, in imminent danger of harming themselves or somebody else, they can be then Section 12, which is a psychiatric commitment for a few days to make sure what's going on, to make sure they're okay and all of that. So those are two areas that at the very tail end that some parents turn to when they don't know what else to do. The good thing now is there are places, Spectrum for instance, we have what's known as peer recovery centers. And so there's all kinds of folks in there, from some adolescents all the way into pensioners who are maybe in recovery, maybe still struggling with their recovery from addiction. Very supportive, lots of things going on in workshops and meetings and other supports, that may be a place to turn to. At least somebody else going through what they're going through may be able to engage them and convince them. Plus they also work with recovery coaches. Recovery coaches are fantastic folk. They're trained specifically to guide you along, engage a person.
So like a sponsor in AA or something?
Well, a little bit, but they go a little bit more. In other words, they will work precisely with that person. That is their job.
They're right with you.
Right. And they'll get you into where you have to go, make sure you get in, and afterwards, if they can, continue to follow you as well.
Continue the friendship.
Absolutely.
So the person's made a deep connection right there.
Yes.
That is. We are talking with Dr. Romas Buivydas, and I said that right, I hope. He's the Vice President of Clinical Development for Spectrum Health Systems. He's PhD, LMHC. Spectrum is in Westboro, 2 in Worcester.
And then we're throughout Massachusetts.
I didn't know that. I thought you were just
We're
up
all
here.
the way out into the Berkshires. We're up in the North Shore, the north part of the county of Worcester. We're down south towards Southbridge. We're in multiple sites. Those are all outpatient-based. We're also in other states, too, because we work with folks in correctional institutions. So in other states for rehabilitation purposes, including Massachusetts.
Right.
Hence the term Spectrum Health Systems. We get folks from the very beginning, sometimes from detoxification, all the way through outpatient. We do residential settings and we do outpatient as well. We also work with other facets. We work with the Department of Youth Services for adolescents. And so there's multiple avenues that we go. And as I said before, now the new venture is sharing our wealth, going out and helping other agencies, towns, municipalities, in fact, how to build resiliency from the addiction crisis, from the opioid crisis.
Right.
And as I said earlier, just from the town of Randolph a few months ago, town nurse asked me to come down and train, teach, engage their Department of Public Works folk to understand how to recognize signs, symptoms of being under the influence of something, withdrawal, the behaviors behind it, and what to do about it.
Romas, I'm wondering, what is it? I think it has, since the 80s and 90s, the time that a person is allowed by insurance to spend what they need to spend, let's say in inpatient. I think it used to be maybe 30 days. What is it now, 6? What is it?
You're right. Things are changing. They're always changing.
Yeah.
And the 30-day part was never a clinical basis. It was simply an established amount of days.
Yeah.
Other times in residential settings, you could be in treatment for over 6 months, a year at times. And for instance, detoxification, which is not really treatment, it's a transitional period to stabilize you, to get you into treatment once you're detoxified, that can be 5-6 days. So there is a ranking and a stepping up level, or stepping down level, if you will, that yes, your insurances will cover.
Yeah.
And it's based now, and we work with insurances very well now. They understand, we understand what this patient, the client, needs.
Sure.
And so we have to go to bat, work back and forth, and it's very individually based. So not everyone is 30 days anymore, let's say.
Yeah.
Some might need 25, some may need a little more.
Yeah.
It's based on their clinical need, if that makes sense.
Do they come to you needing the medical or physical detox, or after that, then they come into the spa? Say somebody up in Westboro is in the live-in accommodation. Do they come to you after they've been detoxed, or can they come right there?
Well, it depends if the person needs a detoxification. So, for instance, there's no wrong door to recovery, as they call it.
Yeah.
So you can get in here, but it's based on your needs. So let's say you smoked some pot, you drank some beers, you got drunk. The family's not knowing what to do. They say, well, I think he needs a detox.
Yeah.
Well, you find out that he's only been drinking for a couple of days.
Oh, okay.
In between there, it might have been just 2 weeks of nothing.
So it's not years, we're talking days.
Right. Which means then, nursing will assess him, medical will assess him, saying, you don't need detoxification.
Yeah.
But you may need, and you probably, depending on how often this has been happening, they may not need a residential, meaning living treatment. They may need what's known as an IOP, intensive outpatient, where they go to outpatient for 3 weeks-ish, let's say, and they go several times per week, so it could be 3-4 days a week, depending, and it could change. Could be there the entire day. So it's almost like you're living there, but you go home.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
But for those who have, let's say, tried IOP,
And they can't.
and they didn't do too well, and they started relapsing left and right, and they drank or used other things very heavily.
They had a slip. And
Right, or they slipped more.
Yeah.
They disappeared from the family for weeks
Yeah.
using opioids or something else.
Yeah.
Then they may need a detoxification,
Yeah.
and then they'll be assessed probably, well, maybe we need to kind of give you more structure than letting you out
Yeah.
there because you didn't fare too well.
Yeah.
So if we keep you with us and we teach you new coping skills, you'll do better.
Definitely. Do you work in any way tandem with AdCare? I know a lot of people go there.
I mean, all agencies tend to refer when they have to each other. AdCare does their thing, we do our thing. We are a bit more spread out throughout the state.
Right.
AdCare is very centrally located.
Right there on Lincoln. Yeah, right there.
Correct.
That's it. They're the only one. Romas, how can people reach you?
You can certainly reach us. We have our wonderful interactive website, and that's www.spectrumhealthsystems.org. And again, it's one long word, www.spectrumhealthsystems.org. And the links throughout there are terrific. Folks find all kinds of information. There are blogs on there. There's videos, podcasts for information. Please use it. It's a great resource.
What happens if someone doesn't have the transportation to get to your day program? Then what?
Right. So what do they do? Can family bring them?
What if they're working?
If they're working, that's a different story because Here, somebody has a job.
Mhm.
You don't want them to lose their job.
No.
So then they may have to come to evening groups.
Oh, they can do it at the, okay, instead of a day program.
For
an
instance,
evening.
we have outpatient appointments in the evening, too.
That is fantastic.
So, again, we work with clients
Yeah.
because we want to capture you while you're still interested. You
Yeah.
want to get help,
Yeah.
and we'll work with you on that.
What's it like for someone, they're coming in, they're scared to death. When they come in and they're going to be an inpatient, what's it like? What do they walk through?
All the way from beginning, it's going to be assessment, the case managers, the counselors, the nurses. They're very well trained and prepared of how to handle somebody, and family sometimes might be with them at times,
Yeah.
of how to calm them down, how to engage them. They may be terribly hungry. We'll get them fed.
Sure.
Any of that stuff. And it's almost like an orientation to what's going to happen, what we're going to do to put the person at ease as much as possible given their current circumstance.
I know that in some detoxes, let's say somebody's coming off of Valium or something like that, besides booze, they kind of zero in on, we can't just walk this person immediately off of that pill. They put them on just temporarily something else to ease it down a little bit so that they don't have a seizure. Is that how they do it?
They may, or simply, for instance, with benzodiazepines like Valium,
Yeah.
you might be tapered down slowly.
Mm.
Much like other, for instance, for alcohol withdrawal, then when it's required medically,
Yeah.
we use benzodiazepines as needed to take you down safely so there's no seizure.
Right. That's
Mhm.
right. Now, when a person comes in, are they assigned a room with someone else, or are they alone?
No, typically they're assigned with other folks. And typically, well, it depends on where you go. The New England Recovery Center, the rooms are different. It might be just 2 people. Other parts of that campus in Westboro may have 3 or 4 people, much like in hospital setups.
Yeah, sure. You know, when you think about all the different addictions, you've got the opioid thing now. Are you actually seeing more folks coming in because of the opioids than the standard booze and pot and that type of thing?
It's interesting you said that. We're seeing opioids, and we're seeing, of course, the old ways of looking at addiction was that, oh, it's just booze or it's just heroin.
Yeah.
It's now folks are doing heroin and alcohol and some other stuff in between, or you could be doing cocaine and you might be doing something else. So there's multiple, it's polypharmacy almost. So what we're seeing now, more and more of, and it's across the state, is more cocaine is coming back.
That's coming back?
It's coming back as a trend again.
Ah.
So it had a dip. The unfortunate part is that the producers of the cocaine, they're making it that much cleaner, so people are grabbing onto it. So, and these trends come in waves at times.
I wonder what Spectrum and what you feel about the marijuana issue.
I knew you were going to ask that. Okay.
You know, it's like I have a big heart. I understand if someone has a cancer treatment. I'm torn. I saw what it did to a lot of the kids in my kids' generation. But then they're saying, well, this is the only thing that can help them when they're going through some kind of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Yeah, I want to keep it out of the hands of this is going to be too easy for the kids.
It could be. But then look at Canada. The entire country just legalized it. And they ran out of it, in fact.
What?
I don't know if you saw that in the news recently.
Oh, God.
The country of Canada ran out of weed, as they said.
Hope they're not looking.
So don't go north right now.
No.
But there are lots of camps of thought regarding the new marijuana, medical marijuana, of course. And simply put, we treat it like anything else that's a legalized substance. Alcohol is legal.
Yep.
But if you come into work under the influence of alcohol,
Yep.
we have to address it. If you come in under the influence of pot, we're going to address it.
They can have a car accident just as much as somebody who's
you
boozed
can.
up. I mean,
because you're under the influence.
Yeah.
You could be under the influence of your medically prescribed benzodiazepine, your Xanax for anxiety.
Yeah.
You took a few too many pills, and you're now going up and down, let's say 495, weaving, because it mimics alcohol. And so you're under the influence now.
Romas, in your opinion, what is the most treacherous detox, the hardest thing for a person to go through, you know?
It's difficult to say. It depends on the person.
Yeah.
It depends on sometimes what they've been using, how long they've been using.
Mm-hmm.
So folks who come in for opioid, heroin, and other pills, opioid pills, detoxing can be very uncomfortable.
So they probably need to go over into a hospital setting first. And then they
No.
can... No?
They come in right to
Right to
detox
you.
to us for detoxification.
Wow.
They don't. The thing is, coming off opioids, you're going to feel like you're dying. You won't die,
Oh,
but you're going to feel like you're
I
dying.
can only imagine what it was.
The issue at hand is if it's alcohol or benzodiazepines, and it's such a powerful history of addiction and use
Yeah.
that sometimes some folks do need to go to a hospital,
Mhm.
a general hospital, in fact, sometimes,
Yeah.
to be detoxed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it's something manageable, then, for instance, we can certainly manage it at our level.
How about if somebody goes over to the emergency room at UMass or whatever? Will they contact you and say, "Look, we got a live one here,
Mhm.
and I think it would be really great if you could. Can you send someone over?" Or how do you work that?
If we have the capacity with vans, we will do that. Sometimes hospitals may drive somebody over, or a friend or the family who brought them to the ER
Yeah.
will bring them. We'll say, yes, we'll work with you.
Right from the
Um,
ER, they can come. Are you 24/7? You're open.
We're 24/7.
24/7, and then you have to make the distinction. Well, shall this person be admitted into our inpatient facility in Westboro, or to the day programs?
So even then, if we see that, okay, you really don't need a detoxification, but we'll probably hold on to you, and you may need a different level of care.
Sure.
And so we'll work with you on that.
You might keep them overnight.
Right, and then we'll see how else we can get you help.
Do you bring the AA meetings and NAs to Spectrum, or do you take the people over to the meetings?
There are various meetings that go on in Spectrum, so we don't promulgate just AA or NA. It might
Yeah.
be Smart Recovery, multiple different venues, because some folks have different wants and likes, like everybody does.
Yeah.
And so, yes, meetings do go on. However, Spectrum, we're very well known for, and I'm very proud of it, is that our groups are very structured groups to reteach those skills that folks have forgotten when they've been using for years and years, or teach them skills for coping that they've never learned to begin with.
Right. Yeah, they came from families maybe that a lot of people grew up
Right.
with alcoholism. They
Right.
think that's the norm.
Exactly.
So they have to learn again.
How to do certain things that you and I may take for granted,
Sure.
where this guy is 40 years old, he doesn't know how to interact. He'll still act like a 12-year-old,
Yeah.
impulsively, without thinking things through, and then get into trouble.
Mhm.
So we'll teach via groups and one-on-one counseling how to manage your life better. And we keep pulling that all the way through, even to outpatient, because the bottom line is, staying with us, let's say the magic number, 30 days, it's not
Mhm.
always that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you still need more treatment.
Right.
And so we'll continue to ask you to join us for outpatient. Come to outpatient once or twice a week. That might be once every 2 weeks or something. To continuously learn, we can monitor you,
Mhm.
and we'll continue all the way through. Recovery is for life. How's that?
Yeah. One day at a time.
It's one day at a time, but the true thing that a lot of folks don't understand is that addiction is a disease of the brain.
Yeah. What is it? What do you think? The brain craves it. They're missing a gene. They have a gene that doesn't know how to digest it. It hits anybody.
It can hit any person. However, some people, just like with heart disease, arthritis, diabetes, mental illness, some folks may have it in their genetic makeup. That way you can see, oh my Lord, there's a history in the family.
Sure.
Sometimes some folks are just hardwired to get ill from something.
Yeah.
And the same thing with a disease of the brain. Let's say addiction is a disease of the brain. Some folks can go to a party and do all kinds of cocaine,
Yeah. And
go home and be fine. Others do the same amount. Next day, they want more, and they want more and more. Some people can drink like crazy, but don't become, quote, addicted.
right.
Others drink quite a bit, and they continue to need to drink, but now only to stay feeling okay.
I've heard that somebody read that it's the GABA. Was it the GABA cells,
Yeah, GABA.
serotonin?
Mhm.
That an alcoholic lacks the at the certain level that you need, so they drink to feel better, or how?
There's multiple theories out
Yeah.
there as to why some people do what they do.
Yeah.
The other part is that behind, and there's a lot of now studies on this, is that trauma is a big culprit in folks who are very have long addiction histories already in themselves,
Yeah.
and they're trying to cope with whatever they can.
Like a trauma that happened to them in their family?
Right, or they saw something else.
PTSD?
It could be PTSD, it could be a traumatic experience they went through, and they're just not dealing with it very well.
Do you have speakers, Romas, come in that are, let's have long-timers, long-time recovery in AA,
Sure.
or anything? They come in. How do you find them? Do they volunteer?
They find us,
They
and
come
it's
to you.
wonderful. They come to us,
And they'll speak about
they
it.
speak, and they're very inspirational.
Yeah.
They instill hope like you wouldn't believe
Oh, yeah.
for folks. And they also help to teach others who said, you know what worked for me? I did this, this, and this.
Yes.
And this new person, well, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And they get ideas that way too. So between that kind of support from folks in recovery,
Mhm.
from the clinical staff, you're in good hands, I think.
One more time, Romas, how can
Sure.
they reach you at Spectrum?
Again, please use our website. It's fantastic. www.spectrumhealthsystems.org. And then just go right through it and you'll find all kinds of good stuff.
They say the rate of recidivism is so high. I mean, the odds if somebody walks into AA, how many people are going to still be there in a year?
Again, it can be 50%, 60%
Yeah.
in between. But treatment, however, reduces that recidivism, meaning people, if you're in treatment, and the longer you're in treatment, the better off you are.
Your support system, too.
And your support system. So we will work on that as well to make sure you don't go back to a non-supportive environment.
Yeah, that's tough, because a
very
lot
tough.
of them go back into something that nobody
They
gives a
sure do.
darn about them, and they're trying to get them to drink again.
Right.
That boggles my mind, you know?
And again, it's a choice. So some folks who are entering early recovery, they have to make choices themselves too.
Yeah.
We'll help, but in the end all, it's that person making a choice.
It's a choice. And what do they call it? The gift of desperation.
And unfortunately, sometimes, yes.
Do you steer a lot of the families of the people in treatment to Naranon and Al-Anon?
We do. We recommend any kind of supports. The other ones are Learn to Cope. It's a wonderful for families who have unfortunately been victims of death and or just don't know where their loved ones are anymore to support each other. So Learn to Cope is phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm seeing more and more when I check, it sounds awful, but when I look at the obituaries on Sunday's newspapers, once in a while you'll see a young person in their 20s. And I look down, usually it'll say in lieu of flowers,
All right.
they'll say maybe to, something, yeah. And then
A donation to something else.
Yeah,
right?
the parents are very brave sometimes, and they'll say they lost their battle with their addiction.
Right.
Or died unexpectedly.
Mhm. Because some parents still don't want to say it. There's a huge stigma around addiction. We know that.
Yeah.
It's lessening. The state is doing a lot of good stuff to lessen the stigma, but it's still out there.
Yeah. Romas, thanks so much for
No,
being
thank you very much.
getting the word out about Spectrum and what they can do to help you if you have an addiction, if you have somebody in your family, a friend.
Our consultations, we're out there, and we
Right.
can do the training or education part as well.
And you have the Lincoln Street, the outpatient, and where's the other one outpatient?
In Worcester, it's Merrick Street.
Merrick,
right.
and then inpatient, beautiful setting. It's in Westboro.
Yeah.
I mean, it's peaceful, it's beautiful. There's a white house that
Right, an old White House that was multi-purposed, and so we're still looking at that, but there's a brand new building called the Farris Center. Beautiful building.
Yeah.
Again, it's to provide dignity for folks.
which it should be. Thank you very much.
Thank
We'll
you
see you
very
next
much.
time. I'll be my
Thank
guest.
you.